I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. Now, why would a therapist say that? Because we all have mental health struggles, even therapists. The good news is we have so much more information about how we can be crazy well. On my podcast, we don't focus on what's wrong with us. We want to know what happened to us. We're going to explore how trauma affected us, both negatively and positively. That's right. I said positively. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's a real thing. Be Crazy Well will share mental health wellness practices, the newest mental health research, and most importantly, how we all get to create the person we deserve to be and the life we deserve to live. So join the mental health evolution and be crazy well. Hi, everybody. It's Suzi Landolfi here at Be Crazy Well. You know what's funny about that name was I was on a Zoom with a bunch of veterans last night on merging vets and players. So we have a Zoom call for all the combat veterans and retired professional athletes that don't live in one of the cities where we have a chapter. And it's been quite remarkable to have people, men and women from all over the country, join us via Zoom and be grateful that we actually have a Zoom doing that and not, most of us are pretty zoomed out. I get it. And I'm also very grateful for Zoom. And it was great to be able to know that we can still connect. It's better in person. I know it's better in person. And I love that we have this option so that we at least have some sort of connection. And speaking of connection, people always ask me, why do you work with combat veterans and retired professional athletes? Good question. And I started to work with combat veterans before I started to work with MVP, Merging Vets and Players. So I helped develop a retreat called Warrior Path, which was born out of Boulder Crest Retreat. Look it up. And they are providing retreats all over the country. And I'm really proud of being one of the original curriculum designers of Warrior Path. And before that, I was doing some equine therapy for the Wounded Warrior Project, and I did some retreats for them and out here in Malibu. And I got introduced to the Wounded Warrior Project through, well, let me just tell you the story. So I'm at my ranch, and we have a long driveway because we're up on a mountain in Malibu. And down my driveway comes this beat up old black van. And I'm looking at it as if like, ooh, that looks like a child abduction van. I was not real happy with sort of the look of this van coming down. And out of the van comes a young man who's got a sort of funny hat, an old English cap, and he has, he's quite thin and a big smile and one arm. And out of the other side of the truck comes a wonderful, tall, lithe woman with long black hair, which reminded me of Morticia from the Addams Family. And she had one big white streak down her hair. And they introduced themselves. They said, hi, and we heard about you, and we heard about a Big Heart Ranch, and could we come and do a drum circle here? So we do drum circles for veterans. And I was like, sure. And we happen to have a great space where you could sit around, put some drums up, and do a drum circle. And by the way, my stepfather was a drummer. So I was all in for it. And we talked about dates and the like, and they were very happy. And they also asked me, hey, by the way, would you be okay with doing some equine therapy with the veterans when they get here? And I said, sure, would love to do that. And they got back in their van. Oh, by the way, he also had an English accent. And he gets back in the van, they both do, and drive back up my driveway. And a couple of my staff members come over to me with their eyes wide saying, do you know who that was? And I said, actually, I don't, and I'm okay as long as there was no children in the back of the van. So a little dark humor, and they said, no, that was Rick Allen, the one-armed drummer of Def Leppard. Now, I was a little older when Def Leppard was becoming very popular. I did enjoy their music, but I was really the Led Zeppelin. That was my generation. So I was sort of laughing at myself because it was obvious that I didn't know who he was. And come to find out, Rick and Lauren, his wife, Rick especially, started to realize that even as a civilian, he really related to combat veterans, especially those that had been severely wounded, because he was severely wounded when he was driving, I believe it was a sports car, a little too fast I don't know if it was the countryside of England, but somewhere in England, and had a horrific car crash, and he lost his arm. He believed at that moment, he tells this great story about how he realized that at 17 or 18 years old when this happened, he was the top of his career at such a young age, being the drummer of a great, great rock band. And he knew it was over. At least he believed he knew it was over. And come to find out, when he got well enough to talk to the band, they said, "Okay, mate, come on back to work. Let's go." And he was shocked. And if you get a chance, look up that story of him talking about how the band said, "No, you're not leaving. You are our drummer, and you'll figure it out. You will figure it out." And of course, you all know the rest of the story. He did figure it out. And then he wanted to be in a tribe of people that had a horrific thing happen to them, and they wanted to figure it out. Now, I'm not saying everybody figures it out right at the same time. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it works out the way that it worked out for Rick. I will tell you this. When people ask me, why do I work with combat veterans and retired professional athletes? Because my experience with them is that they have the best chance, the best opportunity, and the best skills to work it out. And I don't care how severely injured, I don't care how long it's been since the injury, I don't care what the mental health issue is. For them, my experience is that these women and men continue to work it out. And I think it's partly because they realize that it isn't just an end result. They also realize, one of the things they tell me all the time is that it's a process. It's a daily process to be on a mission. And very rarely does a mission go as planned. Very rarely does a game turn out, or a match turn out the way they hoped it would happen, or the way they planned, or even the way they trained for. And I work with a wonderful young boxer, and we talk about that a lot, about the fact that, you know what, you go in well-trained, you go in with a plan, and then you have to be able to work it out. You've got to be able to let go and change. And as I'm here in autumn watching the leaves change, not like in New England, I do miss that, I'll be honest. Los Angeles and California doesn't have that great of leaf change, but I worked it out. I worked it out by making sure that I go back to the East Coast and catch that change. And every year I look forward to that change. Every year. It never gets old. And I'm thinking, why can't I do that with my aging? Why can't I do that with my life in terms of all the changes that happen? And why can't I work it out and have that be my goal? Not the end result be the goal, but the actual practice of working it out. I was working with this great combat veteran and his wife, and it was having a wonderful conversation with her. And she's an amazing artist, like crazy wonderful. And she works for a computer company. And it's really difficult on her. So her soul, her spirit, her superpowers are not oftentimes, not even challenged, just utilized. And So not that she's not great at what she does for the computer company. It's just not the same. She's not working out in the same way that she would and that she is when she does her art. So part of our work was when the combat veteran and his wife were arguing a lot and getting after each other, I realized that both of them were struggling with trying to get to a goal for their own happiness as individuals. And that affected how they are as partners. So the combat veteran's trying to get all these contracts and get out of corporate America and go back to what he knows, which is to work for the DOD and the VA and do all of that and build this amazing company where he can literally do better for his brothers and sisters by having these contracts. And she's working at this computer company trying to prove that she can do this and make this happen, when in fact she has this other superpower she's not using. So instead of doing a lot of couple work, what I decided to do was to have them work it out as individuals. So I just got this wonderful text from her. She's in a pottery class now, and she's doing lots of art, and we were talking about how much fun it is to play in the dirt and play in the clay and get all covered with mud. And because I've done that too, and it's so refreshing. And the other thing that she did was, once she started to go back to her superpower, what fills her soul, her passion, and what she's great at, it didn't matter as much what was going on in the computer company. And as it didn't matter as much, and this was something I never realized, she was struggling with setting boundaries with them. She was saying yes when she wanted to say no. So she was literally doing the job of two people getting paid for one. And the more she said yes, the more the coworkers and the company piled on. So it was really, really a problem, and she couldn't work it out. So we did a very simple thing. As she started to feel better about herself doing her art and being more joyous, she took some chances and decided that one day she was going to say no at least once. If someone came and gave her a whole bunch of work to do, she was going to say, I'm sorry, I'm already got enough work to do, and I want to finish what I have. I can't do that. And I remember her telling me the story, and I could see that it was really challenging for her and anxiety provoking. And I talked to her after she did it that day, and she said, I was so scared, I was so nervous, it was so hard, and I did it. And I said, what happened? And I said, well, they just walked away. They didn't give me the work. So as she continued to work it out with herself to be able to say no, our last conversation was a big smile on her face as she said, oh my God, it's so easy now to say no. Like, I'm just saying no. And she said, I noticed people are really unhappy with that. Like, really unhappy that I now can say no. And I said, well, give them my number. We'll talk about why they can't accept boundaries. Like, that's their issue. So she got to do her boundary setting, lessen the work that she's doing right now, because she's not going to leave right now, and increase what she loves to do. So there literally was a process of working it out. And I realized that I didn't ask her to set boundaries before she had something to hang on to, something that brought back for her her value. And the same for her husband. He's just now going to go sign some contracts. It's been 5 years of him trying to work this out and to build this company. And he said something very valuable. He'd been complaining for probably over a year how tired he was, trying to do this one job to help keep a roof over their head, because they both work, and building this new company and this new process, and actually educating the VA about how it could be different. And I said, wouldn't it be awful if you go to sign that contract, and as you sign that contract and you're so tired, all of a sudden you keel over? And I said, I think it was the Dalai Lama said, we work all of our lives to make all of this money, and because we're so stressed, and our health is so bad we then have to use all that money to take care of ourselves later because we're not healthy, something to that effect. And I was talking to him about how to work it out, how to be able to give himself some rest period and to get regrounded even though he's working these long hours. And I just got a text for him. He was on the beach with the dog and his wife, and it was such a great photograph and little video of them being able to take this time to work it out and to be able to go and give yourself something to hold on to that grounds you, that brings you some joy, so that you actually do have enough energy to go do the difficult things that we deserve to do. And the whole expression, working it out, we go and work out. So if we know how to work out, how come we don't know how to work it out? And that's the gifts. That's the gifts of accepting life on life's terms and knowing that even though life has some terms that we can't control all of, we have some terms. We have some life terms. We have the ability to set boundaries. We have the ability to bring things into our lives that literally bring us some joy. And it's, I'm going to share a little something. When I was much, much, much younger, I can remember so wanting to have a boyfriend that I would have this boyfriend, and then all of a sudden I realized, no, this probably isn't the right boyfriend for me. And so even though I'm holding on to the hand of this boyfriend, I'm looking over here for the next boyfriend. Not a good idea. Anyway, I looked over, and of course I wanted to grab the other hand with the other boyfriend before I let go of this one. And I'm not saying it's good or bad or right or wrong. I was pretty young when I did this, teenager. It did point something out to me, though. It did point out to me that when I was anxious about being alone or I needed some validation, it was very hard to let go of a person that I knew we weren't supposed to be, boyfriend and girlfriend. It's very hard for me to let go before I had something else ready to move towards. And I was thinking, that's so many times we do that in life. You can't leave a job until you have something else lined up. Now, it could be financial, issues that you can't do it. I don't think it's always that. I think it's that idea that we are scared to work it out until we have something in front of us that we know is going to be there. And I don't think that's always a bad idea. Oftentimes, men and women that I work with, especially in the arena of combat veterans and retired professional athletes, I could do it at MVP. Oftentimes when they're struggling with substance use, I don't always tell them to stop drinking first. I don't always say stop smoking pot or whatever you're doing, unless it's absolutely at a point where it's detrimental to their life on such a level that it could cause death to them or somebody else. Oftentimes what I ask them to do is to focus on something they want to do before they actually give up all the substances that they're using. Like, find that part of you that you love, that you've always wanted to do. I was sitting with someone last night and I said to him, he said, I got to get healthy, but I'm drinking too much. So I got to stop drinking. And I said, why don't you just start working out before you stop drinking? And he kind of looked at me like, what? And I said, yeah, you're drinking here tonight, but you won't be drinking at work tomorrow. So chances are if you don't drink at work, you could go to the gym right after work and work out and then come home. What if you started to work it out before you let go of something? What if you actually started to do different before you had to change everything that you rely on right now? And I just was so enamored with the idea that I get to work with men and women that are committed to working it out. So to answer the question, why do I continue to work with combat veterans and retired professional athletes, is because there are men and women in that arena that continually struggle to work it out. I got a wonderful, wonderful FaceTime video yesterday from a young man who has struggled mightily. He was in the NFL, and he struggled all while he was in there. Great player, and struggled so much with the effects of trauma that he was dangerous to himself and others, and he was asked to leave. And for a while, it was really difficult for him to hold a job, to not drink, to do all those things that everybody wanted him to do because they cared about him so much. And he's such an amazing human being. And I took a different approach. I stopped talking to him about, oh, have you drank? Have you this or that? I just stopped asking. And what we started to talk about was his love of horses. And I said, let's get you to a ranch that you could either work at, volunteer at, and I'll send you down the horse that you're in love with, that will let you adopt this amazing horse from our wild horse rescue. It's actually a big horse. It's a draft horse because we have some others other than wild horses. I said, let's work on that. And sure enough, yesterday I got a FaceTime, and he's at a ranch with 8 or 9 other horses. And we're starting to make plans. So he's starting to work it out. He's using the gifts that he has, the joy that he deserves, before he actually even lets go of what it is that he's been using for years to try to get through. So I was so happy to hear and to see that sometimes we don't have to do one thing before the other. We are capable and strong enough to be able to go after and to start to change, to start to do some of the things that we deserve to do before we let go of all the things that are stopping us from doing it. Literally we believe stopping us from doing it. And I just wanted to share that with you. And I wanted to share with you, if you listen to this podcast, you've probably listened to and met a lot of remarkable men and women. And what I thought I would do, since Merging Vets and Players has retired professional athletes and combat veterans that work together, I thought I'd bring on some of the athletes so that you could hear from them why it is that they appreciate being part of a membership with combat veterans. What have they learned? And I think the other thing we need to do more of is make sure that we're talking to all the men and women that participate in professional sports and in the military, so that we get a whole range of experience. It's not always great for everybody in the military. It's not always great for everybody in professional sports. I understand that. What I also understand is that the men and women that got there, that worked hard to go there and to be part of the military or to play that sport, whether it's by themselves on a court or in a ring or with a whole team, there is something different about how they view life and the skill set that journey, that struggle has created in them. And that makes me realize that this is a group of men and women that we deserve to have more contact with, that we deserve to get to know them here at home and utilize and learn from and follow them as we create community here and we keep ourselves and our families safer here. And I know that there's a ton of books on leadership. Oh my gosh. I was thinking about that the other day too. It's like, oh, another book on leadership. And I was thinking, wow, if there's just leaders, who are they leading? Like, where's the followers? And why is following not valued? And I realized that so many times in my life, I've been the leader, and in that same day, I go into a gym or I go into a class and I'm a follower. I've got a leader there. I'm looking for leadership, and I'm looking to know how to be a great follower. For all of you that have children, it's a pretty amazing experience to let the kids lead. Let them decide what's being cooked for dinner. Let them decide where they want to go on the holiday. Let them lead you into their world and a new way of looking at things. So that means that there is no great leadership without followership. And that's another aspect that I so appreciate when I have the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to be with combat veterans and retired professional athletes. So I hope you have a great week. We're coming into Halloween. Here, I got my, wait a minute, I can't see it because I'm too short. Oh, I know, I can do this. There we go. Happy Halloween. So I'm showing you my flowered skull on my t-shirt. And I get to play, I'll be up at my Wild Horse Sanctuary. Look up Lifesavers, Wild Horse Rescue. And I'm so grateful to be part of that nonprofit as well. And we're having an adult Halloween party this Saturday night. And I get to play the fortune teller. How cool is that? And they gave me a name a couple of years ago when I did this the first time. And so I will be playing Madame Vulgar. You can understand why that's said that way. And I will be giving people some of, let's say, some fortune telling about what is going to come into their life. And it's going to be a very fun night, and I will be raising money for Lifesavers and being part of this lovely community where our sanctuary is, our Wild Horse Sanctuary. So that'll be my weekend, and until then, I'll see you next week. And remember, it's always your right to be crazy well. And crazy also can help you be a disruptor. It can help you make sure that you work it out. Some people will call you crazy and you're not. And sometimes we are a little. And that can be okay as long as it's crazy well. So be crazy well, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.